Interested in starting a podcast and want to know exactly what it takes without any of the fluff? Here are 10 things you need to do to start your podcast today. First, you'll need to come up with your idea. What is your podcast going to be about? How does this align with your business goals? What content are you currently making? Or is there a specific topic in your industry worth exploring? Once you come up with a killer original idea, you've got to decide on which format will work for you. The chances are you've already had the format in mind when you chose your idea. But here are the options. The most common is the guest interview. You'll have heard podcasts like this before, and some of the most popular follow this format. An interview show is when you have a host who asks questions to an interesting guest about a topic that is relevant to the industry. Probably the easiest podcast to produce is a co-hosted show. This is where two people talk about a specific topic. You'll see a lot of entrepreneurs making podcasts like this, such as Build Your SaaS by Justin Jackson and John Buda. You could focus on bringing the news to your audience, like The Daily Show from the New York Times. You could really stand out as an authority if you bring the news to your industry every day. Narrative-driven podcasts are arguably the hardest to produce, but the rewards can be high. If you can produce a multiple part story in audio form that keeps people gripped, this could be super successful. It could be either fiction or non-fiction, and for the latter, I like Breaking Brand podcast by Buffer. There are many unique formats and we could go into the pros and cons of each, but we'll do that in another video. Podcast length is something that varies a great deal. Some are 2 or 3 hours long, like Joe Rogan's. Others are 2 minutes long, like Naval Ravikant's. How long are pods generally in your industry? How much time do you have to produce? What suits your format best? One thing I would note is that podcast listen times are trending downward since COVID-19, as people have lost their main time to listen to their podcast, their commute. You then need to pick a name that is unique and engaging. You don't really have to focus on keywords here. Some podcast names I like include Breaking Brand, How I Built This, and All Consuming. Once you've come up with your name, you need to come up with podcast art. Something that is clever and noticeable. If you have an existing brand, you should use it. It will keep things consistent and be easy to identify for your audience. Most commonly, people will publish their podcast once a week, but this depends on your schedule, how long it takes to produce and what you're covering. For instance, if you have a full-time person producing your podcast and it revolves around news that changes every day, then you post every day. If you have a narrative-driven, series-based podcast, you could release the whole series at once. Equipment is a huge topic and we could go deep into this rabbit hole. Make sure you subscribe to find out more about the best equipment in some upcoming videos. But just quickly, you'll need to get yourself a good microphone and a pair of headphones, spending around $100 on a mic as the minimum. The best plug and play setup I like to use is the Rode NT USB Mini, which costs around $99 and plugs straight into your laptop to work with your recording software. For headphones, I use the Audio-Technica ATH M50X, which are again around $100, but any headphones really do for this. If you want to upgrade and have a little bit more control around your audio, you can get an XLR microphone with a recording interface, something like the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2. Now we're ready and prepped to record our podcast, it's time to actually get recording. If you're solo, you can use free software such as Audacity or GarageBand to record. If you have guests and you're recording remotely, you can record high quality audio and video using riverside.fm. Once you've recorded, you'll need to craft your podcast into a tightly edited production. For a free option, you could edit in Audacity, GarageBand, or Descript. But if you'd like more control and to get the best possible production quality, use software such as Logic or Adobe Audition. Now you've produced your podcast, the next step is to get onto the podcast directories. This is done through a podcast host. Some options include Buzzsprout, Transistor, Captivate, Simplecast, and there are a few more. If you're looking to have a video podcast hosted in the podcast directories, which most directories support, then only hosts such as Castos, Libsyn, and Podbean will host that for you. If you're going to upload your video podcast to YouTube, you're going to need to do that separately. The hosts generally don't do that for you. There are a ton of promotional techniques we'll go over in other videos. Make sure you subscribe for that. But here's a quick lowdown of some of the options. You can share it on social media, guest on other podcasts, share to relevant communities, have your guests share with their wider audience, and make written content around your podcast. So there you go. There is your quick checklist to get your podcast up and running. Thanks for watching this video. If you'd like to see more podcasting tips and tricks, make sure you subscribe to the Riverside.fm YouTube channel and turn on the notifications so you don't miss an episode. To give Riverside.fm a go, click the link in the description and you can get started.